I made a decision that changed my entire financial future. I stopped trusting the bank, and I started buying gold every single week. People ask me why I don't buy stocks or crypto instead. Today, I'm going to show you the data that convinced me to move my wealth into the only asset that hasn't failed in 5,000 years. While the world is distracted by the daily fluctuations of stock markets and the chaotic rise and fall of cryptocurrencies, a silent but massive movement is happening in the deepest vaults of the global financial system. The most powerful institutions on the planet, the central banks, are moving their chess pieces. They aren't buying tech stocks. They aren't buying real estate. They are buying gold at a rate we haven't seen in over half a century. In 2022 and 2023, central bank gold purchases shattered records. We are talking about over 1,000 metric tons per year. To put that in perspective, that is nearly 1/3 of all the gold mined globally in a year. Why now? Why are the architects of our modern digital economy returning to an ancient metal? The answer lies in a fundamental breakdown of trust in the paper-based financial system. We are witnessing the beginning of a golden reset. For decades, the US dollar has been the undisputed king. It was the world reserve currency. This meant that if a country wanted to trade oil, wheat, or technology, they had to use dollars. This gave the United States incredible power. However, that power was weaponized in 2022. When the West froze Russia's foreign exchange reserves, the entire world took notice. Nations like China, India, Brazil, and Saudi Arabia realized that if their wealth is held in digital dollars in a Western bank, that wealth can be deleted with a single keystroke if they disagree with US policy. This created an immediate need for an asset that has no political master. Gold is the only financial asset that exists outside of any governance control. It cannot be frozen. It cannot be cancelled. It is the ultimate tool for national sovereignty. We must talk about the elephant in the room: national debt. The United States is currently over $34 trillion in debt. But it's not just America. The UK, Japan, and most of Europe are in the same boat. This debt is growing exponentially. We are at a point where the interest payments on the debt are becoming larger than the military budgets of these nations. There are only three ways to handle this much debt: growth, but global growth is slowing; default, which would destroy the global economy; or inflation, which means printing money to pay the debt with cheaper dollars. Central banks know that inflation is the only one politicians will choose. By printing more money, they decrease the value of every dollar in existence. Gold, however, cannot be printed. As the supply of paper money increases, the value of gold measured in that paper must rise. Central banks are buying gold to protect their balance sheets from the very inflation they know is coming. Why gold and not silver or copper? Gold has unique chemical and physical properties that make it the perfect money. It doesn't rust, it doesn't tarnish, and it is extremely rare. Throughout 5,000 years of human history, thousands of paper currencies have gone to zero. Not a single one has survived. Gold, however, has never had a value of zero. In the year 1913, an ounce of gold could buy you a high-quality tailor-made suit in London. Today, over 100 years later, an ounce of gold still buys you a high-quality tailor-made suit. In 1913, $20 could also buy you that suit. Today, $20 can barely buy you a sandwich. Gold doesn't make you rich in the sense of a speculative gamble. It keeps you wealthy by preserving your purchasing power across generations. We are seeing the rise of the BRICS nations and their new members. These countries represent the majority of the world's population and a huge portion of global commodity production. There are serious discussions about a new BRICS trade currency backed by gold. If the East moves toward a gold-backed system while the West stays on a debt-backed system, the shift in global power will be tectonic. By hoarding gold now, countries like China are preparing for a world where hard assets matter more than digital promises. They are building a new foundation for the global economy, and gold is the cornerstone. In modern finance, almost everything you own is actually a claim on someone else. Your money in the bank is a liability of the bank. Your stocks are a digital entry at a brokerage. If the brokerage or the bank goes bankrupt, you become an unsecured creditor. Gold is the only asset that is not someone else's promise. When you hold a gold coin in your hand, you own it 100%. There is no counterparty. This is why central banks are repatriating their gold, moving it from vaults in New York and London back to their own soil. They want the physical metal, not a digital receipt. In a crisis, the difference between owning gold and owning a gold contract is the difference between survival and ruin. Inflation is often called a hidden tax. It steals from the savers and rewards the debtors. If you have worked hard and saved $50,000 and inflation is 10%, you have effectively lost $5,000 of purchasing power in 1 year without ever spending a cent. The middle class is being squeezed because wages rarely keep up with the cost of living. By holding gold, you are opting out of this theft. You are putting your savings in a vault of time where the government cannot reach in and devalue your hard work. Central banks are doing this for their nations. You must do it for your family. How do you actually follow the banks? You don't need to be a millionaire. You start by stacking. Stacking is the process of slowly and consistently buying physical gold and silver over time. First, focus on bullion. Avoid collectible or rare coins. You want the most gold for the least amount of currency. Second, know your sovereigns. Buy coins like the American eagle, the Canadian maple leaf, or the South African Krugerrand. These are recognized worldwide and are easy to sell back to any dealer. Third, think about storage. If you don't own a high-quality safe, consider professional vaulted storage, but ensure the gold is allocated and segregated in your name. Many financial experts on TV say gold is a pet rock or a relic of the past. They say it has no yield. But these same experts often ignore that the dollar has lost 99% of its value against gold since 1933. They say gold is volatile, but gold is only volatile when measured against a dying currency. If you measure your wealth in ounces instead of dollars, you will see that gold is the most stable thing in the world. The volatility you see is actually the heartbeat of a failing monetary system. History shows us that these currency cycles usually end in a blow-off top, where the price of hard assets explodes as people panic out of paper money. We are seeing the early stages of this panic now. The central banks are the smart money they are buying while the price is still relatively affordable. Once the general public realizes that the dollar is permanently losing its status, there will be a rush for the exits. But because the gold market is so small compared to the stock and bond markets, there won't be enough gold for everyone. The price will gap up, and the window to protect your wealth will close. The message from the central banks is loud and clear. The era of easy money and paper illusions is coming to an end. We are returning to a world where reality matters. A world where what you can touch and hold is what truly has value. You have a choice. You can stay entirely within the digital system and hope that the politicians and bankers manage the debt perfectly. Or, you can do what the central banks are doing. You can take a portion of your wealth and place it in the most proven, time-tested asset in human history. Don't wait for the crisis to hit the headlines. By then, it will be too late. Start your stack today. Protect your purchasing power. Preserve your future. If you want to stay updated on the best ways to accumulate wealth through physical assets, make sure to follow our journey. Subscribe to Channel Stacking Gold.